Welcome back, folks. I don't often do videos on my primary workstations because there's nothing really exciting there. I don't buy the biggest or the best of anything, and quite frankly, I don't often replace my, well, I'll backtrack to that a little bit in a second. I only replace these machines when I have a damn good reason to, so it's not like I'm buying a new computer every year. I've for my primary workstation, I was originally a Windows user up until about 2008. Then I bought my first Mac. I bought an iMac 20-inch, the middle grade version, and that was my primary workstation for about a year. Then I sold that. Then I bought a MacBook Pro, a 13-inch MacBook Pro. I used that for about a year and a half, which I still have. It's in my basement. I still have that machine. I sold it to my dad. And then I bought another MacBook Pro. Now, that third Mac lasted me about 6 years. And then I decided to go back to Windows because I didn't like where Apple was going. So I went back to Windows, back when Windows 10 was relatively new. I went through 2 Windows machines in the span of 5 years, if that. And I ended up buying this in about 2000 and, I think it was last year. 2021-ish is when I bought this machine. So as a function of my job, I not only maintain, but I also track, and I do a lot of footwork when it comes to purchasing and speccing out new equipment. And it just so happened that I was replacing a bunch of administrative laptops, and I got my first pick of which one I wanted to buy because I decided I was going to go back to a Mac. So I bought this machine because I knew exactly who it was assigned to, and that person took exceptional care of this machine. But not only that, but it had a fairly new battery. So I bought this machine. It is a mid-2015 MacBook Pro, 15-inch. And I bought it for a pretty reasonable sum. And right off the bat, well, I picked this machine for 2 reasons. It was assigned to somebody who took care of it. Also, I had replaced the battery in it and the entire top case back in like 2017-ish or so. And this is one of the 2 laptops we had at work that was affected by the battery recall. And when I found out about it, I ordered the parts from Apple and did the repair. And thinking, well, if it's been replaced already, it's probably going to last a good long time. But here's the thing. This laptop never leaves this desk. I took it off the desk maybe once, maybe twice. I brought it on a trip, but it never left the bag, and it just lives on this desk. And that has taken a detrimental toll on the battery. As you can see, we have a 100 charge count, 100 charge cycles, and this battery is pushing 6 years old, 6 years old. And I don't know if it shows up in the camera, but if you look very closely, well, that's not supposed to do that. The thing is with laptops is the batteries, not only do charge cycles affect their lifespan, but also lack of use. And the smartest thing I could have done is actually unplugged the battery years ago because it never leaves my desk. Which is a shame that it's in the condition it's in because it also has a new as of when I bought it, a 512 gigabyte solid state disk, drive. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you're feeling and doing well. This is going to be a kind of a farewell video to my beloved 2015 MacBook Pro. I love this machine. I really do. But I've decided that it's time to say goodbye. And I'll tell you why. So I bought this machine to replace my 2018 IBM Lenovo ThinkPad T480. I got sick of Windows for the last time. Microsoft is taking Windows in a direction that I just don't support. And Apple kind of did similar things to Mac OS years ago, but Apple did it well and they did it smoothly and it works. Microsoft, every time they try to be cool, they fuck it up. I mean, tell me I'm wrong. So I decided I'm going to go back into a Mac, and this was at a time when I didn't really have the money to buy something new, so I bought a used machine from work. And since I'm the one in charge of all of the laptops, desktops, and some of the Chromebooks, I decided to, when I did my replacement plan for my administrative machines for that year, I want to say it was 2021. When I did the administrative laptops, I just knew exactly which one I wanted right off the bat. I ended up buying the one that I had put a new battery in as part of a recall in 2017. And this is the one. This laptop was in mint condition. And as soon as I bought it, I paid a reasonable sum. I went with eBay pricing, and we figured out between me and my administrators, we came up with pricing, and we sold a bunch of these. I sell a lot of laptops to employees just to get money for them rather than scrap them. Anyway, so when I bought this machine, I replaced the solid state disk with a 512. It had a 256. I put a 512 into it. And let's see how much space I'm actually using, because I'm kind of curious. I think I'm only using about half that, maybe a little more. Available 110. So we're using most of the storage, but that can be cleaned up. And that's going to play into where this video goes in a little bit. So I'm using a good chunk of the storage space, mostly with videos. But most of that can be dumped. Long story short, I decided to replace this machine, not because it no longer suits my needs, but because that battery that I replaced back in 2017 or 2018-ish, maybe, I don't remember exactly what year, but that doesn't matter. It has decided that it's going to slowly kill my laptop. Now, I'm not supposed to do that. That battery is expanding, and you can see it. If I take a ruler, all right, go like this. I've been checking it every day, and every day it gets a little worse. Now, disconnecting the battery would be a help in this case. And just, now, you can actually discharge the battery correctly. There's a utility that I have. Apple has this utility. And I'm an Apple technician by trade, so I actually could fix this. I could buy the whole assembly. I could go on Amazon and buy the battery of last resort, which is a kit that actually replaces each individual cell. But the Apple solution is to replace the entire top case and battery as an assembly. But as part of that process, you can deep discharge the battery and permanently prevent it from charging ever again. But that's not going to solve this. The battery will continue to expand even after it's discharged. I've seen it happen. In fact, I had a box of phones that all had dead batteries. They were not charged. And I came back to it about 2 months later, and they were all split apart. The correct thing to do would be to replace the battery, and it is fixable. But I'm not going to fix it. I don't want to put money into this machine. And as a newly minted business owner, I only really use this laptop for the business. So I think you know where this is going. Based on my cycle count on this battery of 100 charge cycles in a laptop that is now, 8 years old, I've decided that I no longer need a laptop. I have a phone that does pretty much everything my laptop used to be used for, and I just don't need another laptop. I'm done. My laptop days are over. I just don't need it. I use this machine primarily for video editing and Google spreadsheets. But the video editing portion of it is why I needed something a little bit of power. I barely ever look at the small built-in display. I mostly work on this one here. So yeah, it's time to say goodbye to this machine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this laptop up for sale as a buyer beware kind of thing. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it up for sale. I'm going to try to recuperate some of my money. I'm not very fond of this generation of MacBook Pro because they were all a little bit flaky. USB ports, HDMI ports, they're always a little bit flaky on these. This one's not so bad. I've seen worse, but if I close it, yeah, it's still got a little bit of a gap. I mean, it closes okay, but again, you can see that the bottom is, well, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to get for it, but anyway. So I'm going to make a backup of all of my data. And what I do is when I go to the new machine, I'm not going to port anything over. I'm not going to not playing that game. I don't want any old settings or any old software to be moved. I just want the data, and that is all. So I've got to work on that. So what am I buying? What did I buy? I bought a machine today. What did I get? What did I get? Well, I'm going to show you in a second. So I went with a bigger monitor. This is the 27-inch Acer XF273. I actually bought everything retail. I went to Best Buy and I went to the Apple Store, both in the same mall. I got this from Best Buy and I got a webcam. Yes, I bought the stupid multi-touch keyboard. Yes, I did. And I also got a new Magic Mouse. Not a big fan of these accessories, but I like Magic Touch or Touch ID, and this is the only one that works with the Mac. And I went with a Mini. I went with a Mini because I have been an Apple tech for 20 years. I can count on one hand, one time, I have had to make a repair to a Mac Mini. Once, just once. Regardless of generation, they do not fail. They are the best product Apple has ever produced. The Mac Mini, if you're in the market for an iMac, for example, because you want Mac OS, but you want a desktop, you don't want an iMac. At least not the current gen iMac. I don't know what they're going to replace it with, but the current gen iMac needs to wither and die. It has been in the market too long. It is ugly. You know, I love the fact that Apple brought back the color palette, to the machine. I think that was the best thing they ever did. But why, Apple, did you go with weak sauce color? They're like pastel. Pastel. I don't want a pastel pink iMac. I want a red iMac. I don't want a pastel blue iMac. I want a fucking blue iMac. That was a mistake. I don't care. That was a mistake. Anyway. And also, if you're going to buy an iMac, you're probably going to want all those extra ports that they removed to save space on the portables. But on an iMac, you get, a couple of USB-C ports, and that's it. Nothing else. So the iMac is probably going to wither off the vine and die. And that's fine. But the Mac Mini is a bargain. This machine, it's a bargain in the Apple pricing category. This is $800. And this is again, we're talking Apples here. We're not comparing this to a Lenovo or an HP or a Dell. 8 gigs of RAM, 512 gig solid state. I wanted the 1 terabyte, but I am not going to pay $200 additional for that. That is a ripoff, and they know it. If I need extra storage, guess what? They actually make a hard drive dock, third party, of course, that is designed to slip underneath the Mac Mini, and it fits perfectly, and that's what we're going to do. But right now, I just needed the base model. And because I get educator pricing and they threw on a $100 gift card, which paid for the keyboard, paid for the mouse, but we ended up applying it to the keyboard. So I got the keyboard for $100. That is a $200 keyboard. Okay, I'm not justifying the cost. And you can do this cheaper. I could have just used the wired keyboard that I've had for 10 years. This is left over from one of my earlier iMacs. But I wanted the Magic Touch, the Magic ID, Touch ID, because that's what I want. So it's my money. But as a business owner, and because I use this almost exclusively for YouTube and for my car stereo business, I can write it off. So there you go. Let's deprovision this thing. Deprovision. I'm using Google words. Let's shut this thing down for the last time. I've got all my data backed up on a solid state drive that I bought just a couple months ago. Because I keep eating external drives for some reason. They keep failing. Don't know why that is. Let's see. I'm going to go through all my stuff, and we're going to clean this all off, and yeah. But the reason that we're not going to fix this machine is because it is 8 years old, and or close to that. It's old, and I'm not putting a battery in a machine of this age. Not going to do it. If it was if it was an easy job, like just undo it from a couple of latches and put a new one in, well, that'd be one thing. But we're talking about a complete teardown of the laptop. Like, complete teardown for a fucking battery. Not doing that. And I only paid a few $100 for this machine, so it's not that much of a loss to me. We'll see what it's worth street value, but it really sucks. It really pisses me off that this happened. So again, I bought the Mini because I'm not using it as a laptop, and this battery is the only reason why we're, eventually it will expand to the point where it will start splitting the case. And pulling the battery cells off of the keyboard assembly is something I just don't want to do. I just don't want to do it. So, and why am I sticking with Apple if I'm only using it for two things? Because of iMovie. I do all of my editing in iMovie. I love iMovie. I would marry iMovie if iMovie were available. I like iMovie. And you can't, when I was on my Windows kick, I could not find a single iMovie replacement. Not one. Not one. I don't want to have to take courses to stitch video together with a few little animation or a few little sound effects and some transitions. I don't want to do that. If you want to do that, you can do that. So again, there were cheaper ways out of this problem, but I look at this as a more long-term solution. I love Mac OS. Regardless of what you guys might think of it, I like it. I don't like Windows, and I don't like Unix, Linux, whatever, any of the Nixes. Just not a Nix guy. Sorry. Anyway. How big is this? Was this a 1 terabyte or it has a 1 I think it's a 1 or 2 terabyte drive. So I have plenty of storage. All right, I'm going to clean my desk off. Now, these Bose companion speakers, I'm actually going to replace these because I want these for the basement. I'm going to buy another set of these. Still make the companion 2s. I love these Bose speakers. They are the best sounding computer speakers I have ever found at any price. And they're a little pricey at $150. The companion 2s are pretty much the same speaker. And these are going to be reassigned to the basement where I actually want a set of speakers on my computer down there. And then going to get another set of companions. So, all right, let's pack it up. Okay, so the Mac Mini ships in this beautiful box. All right, so I got the desk all cleaned off, and I've got a certifiable mess over there. So let's open up this Mac Mini. I just pulled the tape off. Look at this thing. Oh, so beautiful. Now, what do you get when you buy a Mac Mini? Nothing. You get a power cord. That's it. That's what they get you. Now you got to buy all the accessories. You got to buy the cables. You got to buy this. This goes on and on. This is how it comes. How good is the Mac Mini? Well, I can tell you we use these as servers at work. And I have some of these with over 10 years of uptime. I mean, really, pretty much nonstop. So let's go ahead and remove this. Use requires acceptance of the software terms because it is not your computer, it is Apple's computer. That's right. Now, in earlier models, this bottom cover actually came off very easily. These new ones, I'm not positive. I haven't had to work on one, so take this tape off the back. And what do we have? Wow, let's take a look. Look at this. 2 USB-A ports. Thank you. HDMI and 2 Thunderbolt. USB-C, whatever you want to call it. And then you got your vent in the back. So this is indeed fan cooled and built-in power supply. That's the thing I like about these newer ones. Power supply is built in, which is why you only need a radio cord to power it up. But yes, we are still running a fan-cooled system. I mean, you'd think that Apple would have just gone with a giant heatsink and external brick, but no, not in this generation. It's also one of the last Apple products to feature a power status indicator. Got my speakers there. Plug in our power. Hope it doesn't turn on. I'm not ready for that yet. Power switch should be in the back in true Apple fashion in the most inconvenient location possible. Oh, Apple. And here you usually get an Apple sticker. Yeah, we got a nice big one. Ooh, fancy. Nice big Apple sticker and a little welcome to your Mac Mini. Here are the terms and conditions. We own the machine, not you. You have no rights, Mr. Consumer Man. Okay. Let's get the monitor out of the box. And my little Bose companion speakers. There we go. Minimalism. Okay, so here we are with the completed setup, and what have I got to say? I'm very happy. I'm very, very happy with what I purchased. My budget for this computer, all in, was around $1,500. Now, I know, it's a Mac. You gotta pay the Mac tax if you want a Mac. I average a fairly long lifespan out of my Macs. My work laptops are all Macs, and I generally get about 5 years out of them. And they don't need to be replaced, but it's budgeted every 5 years I get a new one. So it's kind of an automatic thing for me. And then they actually end up living a much longer life than that. I have been an Apple technician for a long time, since 2007 officially. And I have to say, in the entire Mac lineup, the one model that I see the least often, literally never, is the Mac Mini. Now, our organization owns several Mac Minis. We use them mostly as servers, as file servers. Yes, these actually, for a while, could be purchased as the Mac Mini server, which was it had, I think the ones that we were buying had 2 solid state bays. Actually, no, they were, I think they were actually 2.5-inch drive bays. And so you'd have 2 drives, no optical drive. That was the compromise. But long story short, the Mac Mini has a long-standing tradition of being one of the most reliable Macs ever made. You can get 10 years out of these things. No joke. No problem. Not an issue. You can get longer if you're willing to suffer from lack of software support over time. And getting to software support, this being an M2, Now, the M2 chip is the current chip. The M3 is coming, and the Max and the Ultras, and that's all well and good. I think Apple's trying to build their own line of good, better, best processor choices, and the M2 base chip, which is what this has, that's their entry level, and that's all the processing power that I personally need. It's probably more than what I need. So I expect a good long life out of this machine. I'm shooting for 7 years. What makes the Mac Mini, though, so reliable is it basically contains the same exact hardware that you would find in a MacBook Air. The Mac Mini Pro is probably more in line with a MacBook Pro, but if you look at what's on the logic board, which is a tiny little thing, it's essentially a Mac Mini logic board with better cooling and more room for airflow. So based on that, it should last a long time. No battery to worry about. There's a replaceable coin cell in there. It is replaceable. It is socketed. You can change the coin cell battery. Apple is starting to take a clue from the right to repair movement, and they actually are making some. Look, we have to expect the worst and hope for the best. They are making some of their machines user serviceable. There is no reason why the average person can't take this apart. It is not that hard to do. Unlike some earlier versions of the Mac Mini, you actually had to use an $80 Wera Torque screwdriver, which I have. Never had to use it, but I've got one if you need to remove the heatsink. We're not going there right now. But how does it perform? Well, I just rendered my first video on this. It was my clock video that I just uploaded yesterday or the day before, and it took no time at all. It was a breeze. The thing is, all I really use my Mac for at home is business. I run a business on this, and I use it. I could use a Chromebook for this business. I mean, let's just be honest. Most of my work is in Google, spreadsheets, customer contacts, Gmail, and YouTube. All of that can be done from a Chromebook. But what I really bought the Mac for was my favorite video editing software. And this is why I went with Mac long ago, is iMovie. There is not a video editor like iMovie for the Windows platform. I have looked high and low. I have tried probably half a dozen editors, and none of them give me what I want. iMovie is what I like, and iMovie is what I use. If I decide to up the ante a little bit, I can always go with Final Cut Pro. Now, one thing that I want to point out is I went with the 512 gigabyte model, and there's a reason for that. I don't need a ton of local storage. I really don't. I think as of right now, because I don't save local copies of my videos. I've never done that. I'm only using 181 gigabytes of the local storage out of the 500 or 512, whatever, 500 gigs. I'm not even using half of it, and I've already got all my stuff on here. That having been said, you'll notice something that I've added, and it is the SATEC Mac Mini dock. This is a very cool piece of hardware, although it has one really annoying limitation, and I'm going to talk about that. Two, actually. So what it is basically a port replicator. It's like a breakout box, or, well, it's pretty much a desktop version of this. This is the SATEC USB-C adapter. I probably need to return this because I'm not going to use it. These are expensive. Now, SATEC, that's it, SATEC. SATEC is alarmingly expensive when you're used to paying $30 for a USB-C dongle like this. Apparently, their hardware actually works and is of slightly better quality. I have done no research in the brand. I don't know a damn thing about SATEC, but they're expensive. Really expensive. This was $100, this dock right here, but it's more than meets the eye. This gives you and I have to be very careful when saying this, it gives you an M2 SATA, I believe it's a SATA 3 SSD compartment. So it doubles as a hub with memory card reader. It gives you all the ports that you want at the front of your machine, in addition to a solid state drive adapter, basically. But here's the problem. Go to your local Best Buy, Staples, wherever you buy your hardware, and try to find an M2 solid state disk SATA solid state. I'll wait. You're not going to find one. They're hard to find. All of the drives, I actually mistakenly bought one. I didn't realize that it didn't take NVMEs. All of the SSDs that I found locally were NVMEs. I went on Amazon and Newegg. They're all NVMEs. You have to specifically specify that you want a SATA 3 M2 PCI Express solid state. Now, what they've got to do is re-release this dock with support for an NVMe. Maybe it won't support the transfer speed, but at least it'll work with an NVMe. And I actually got one to physically fit in the slot, but it didn't work. It didn't work. Because the connector is it's just like, I'm thinking, well, maybe the card is defective. And I'm like, it kind of is. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute. Ha! Dumbass. It doesn't support it. And I actually, and I got conflicting information, because I did a quick search for Sateki, dock NVMe, and I found an article that says, yes, it supports NVMEs and SATA 3, but it was for a different product. So I'm like all confused. My only real criticism, though, besides that, is the fact that it doesn't give you any ports in the back. Who in their right mind plugs in all of their accessories in the front? Nobody. Just the stuff that you occasionally need. Memory stick. Maybe you want to plug in a joystick or a gaming gamepad or something. That's it. That's all you're going to use those ports for. Maybe plug in a phone. I am old school. I plug everything in the back. And I really just wanted more ports in the back, but whatever. So being the entry-level model, you can drive up to 2 displays using Thunderbolt, Lightning, Thunderbolt, USB-C, whatever the fuck it is. USB-C, I'm just going to say USB-C because that's what everybody else uses. You can use two Thunderbolt 3 displays. I just pulled it up from Apple. So officially, the Mac Mini 2023 with M2 can support one external display in any of these configurations. One display up to 6K at 60 Hz. One display up to 4K at 60 Hz over HDMI. 2 external displays. One display up to 60K over Thunderbolt, and one display up to 5K at 60 Hz over Thunderbolt as well, or one display over Thunderbolt and one over HDMI. Clear as mud. The M2 Pro can support up to 3. 2 displays over Thunderbolt and one over HDMI. Now, we're driving a very low-res display by modern standards. That's why I didn't have a very big budget for this build, or this setup. So I went with a $180 Acer. And the model on this one, let's take a look at it. I love this monitor. It is the nicest monitor I've ever owned, and that bar is pretty low, if I'm honest. This is an XF273. So the Acer XF273. Now it actually has, oh, I forgot to take this off. It actually has a product name like, I don't know, there's a product line that this falls under. It's sold as a gaming monitor, which pretty much, that's a buzzword for pretty much everything now. Ooh, it's a gaming mouse, a gaming keyboard, a gaming desk, a gaming mouse pad. You know what? It's a freaking monitor. But its maximum resolution is quite low. Actually have it set to, I was pretty surprised that I could do this, but it's running at 1920 by 1080 at 165 hertz, and it's not blowing up. That's pretty cool. I'm happy about that. If I lower the refresh rate down to 60 hertz, I see a lot more visual artifacts, lines and stuff. Not lines, but there's like a slight, you can, depending on the gradient, you can see horizontal bars kind of scrolling through. Very pleased with this monitor. I'm happy I chose this one. It has a nice aluminum stand that is height adjustable. It's very easily glides up and down. It's counter sprung, which is nice. Then on top of that, we added this Logitech high definition camera, which is a very nice, very sharp camera. It has this little privacy thing on there. You don't need this, but I mean, Snowden, you kind of, yeah, after that, I think I'm going to use it. Anyway, now I'm going to go over the indefensible. Apple's peripherals, as of late, have been lackluster. Why did I spend $200 on the Touch ID keyboard? Well, it's in the name, Touch ID. I love Touch ID. Now, I work with Macs all day long, and they all use this keyboard. All of our new machines have these keyboards at work. And when I get used to a keyboard, I don't like to switch it up. I don't like to go to a different keyboard. All of Apple's keyboards share a few characteristics. They share the same key throw, and they share the same key size and spacing, whether it be on a MacBook Pro, MacBook Air, portable, whatever, or the bare keyboard like this one. Now, when I get used to a keyboard layout, my fingers develop muscle memory, and I don't like to switch it up, because then I go to another keyboard. Suddenly I'm like, shit, I can't type. Like, literally, I type all day on my keyboard at work, which is a MacBook Pro with a built-in keyboard, current generation. And I come home I was using the old wired keyboard, the old wired Apple keyboard, and I can't type on it. Then I go down to the basement where I've got the Lenovo all-in-one, and that one has a full travel keyboard. I can't type on that one either. But I come home to this, I can type again. No. Whatever. I'm not that much of a keyboard princess. I just like this keyboard. I'm used to it now. I like it. The price of entry is a little ridiculous. Apple, $200 for this keyboard is too much. And you know it. But people will pay it, and I just did. So, you know. Getting over to the mouse. Now, these are both wireless, rechargeable. Thankfully, they both use the same freaking cable to charge. This is the old-fashioned lightning cable. It is lightning, I'm sorry. I had to check that out, you know. They keep changing the name of these, of all their freaking, they keep using buzzwords. And I'm getting old. I guess I'm 40 now, so that's it. My brain is melted. Just bring back ADB and Apple cereal and I'll be happy, okay? Get off my lawn. Anyway, they both use the same cable, which thankfully, I still own an older iPhone. iPhone 13 is considered old now, which also uses the same cable, so I only need the one cable on my desk to charge either one. I find that this keyboard should last about a month on a charge, which isn't too bad. And I can always plug it in and still use it. But here's where things get ugly. Next to this $200 keyboard, we have a $100 mouse. Close enough to 100, like 80 bucks. Look at where they put the charge cable plug. Do you see the problem there? Most Mac users know what I'm talking about. But some of you might not realize just how stupid Apple can be sometimes. Let me explain visually what this means, right? Let me just try to prop my phone up here. There we go. Okay. Oh my God, I'm working hard and my paper's due in about an hour. And oh no, your mouse battery is low. Okay, well that's fine. Oh no, your battery's dead. Oh crap, I need to charge my mouse. I'll just charge it like, okay, great. And I'll just, I guess that's it. I guess I can't turn in my paper now. You see the problem? Okay. This is a glaring defect. I can't even tell you how stupid this is. I think it's self-explanatory. Apple had an opportunity with this mouse, and they blew it. Now, the previous iteration of this mouse actually took 2 AA batteries, and they would last about, 6 months if you put good ones in there, like the Energizer Lithiums. You get like 3-4 months out of a set of batteries. Moving to a rechargeable battery gave them an opportunity to do something really cool. They could have made a cradle, a QI cradle, put a QI receiver in this mouse, and you just set it on the QI cradle when you're not using it, and then when you need it, you get to use it. I mean, Apple, you're charging a bloody fortune for this mouse. Make it worth a bloody fortune, huh? That would have been cool. That would have been great, and that would have given them a lot of positive PR. But instead, this is what they did. Now, I didn't have to buy this mouse. I could have bought any other mouse on planet Earth, and it would have been fine. Why did I buy this mouse? Because I'm an Apple whore. Folks, you can't defend this decision. You can't defend. If you trash me in the comments, I'll just delete it, but I'll agree with you. I just don't want hateful comments on my videos. But I will 100% agree with you. Whatever you got, throw it at me. The truth is, I have owned many of these mice, and I like them. I like the way they fit in my hand. I just like them. I think they're good looking. They glide nicely. They're great mice. I like these mice. But they're not perfect, and as I just explained, that's one reason why. Now, I'm going to give Apple credit for one thing. So for many years, actually up until very recently, all of their external keyboards, had white keys on an aluminum frame. And for years, Apple has included black accents on their machines, or color-keyed accents. One example, you buy a new MacBook Pro, and it's got black keys, and then you buy the Magic Mouse with it, and it's white. So, why, Apple? Why would you do that? At least now, this keyboard comes in 2 color combinations. You can get, actually it comes in a lot more than that. If you go with the ones that are sold with the iMacs, they come in a variety of colors that are anodized aluminum with white. I think they're white or black keys depending on the color. Same with the mouse. So Apple is getting better with their color keying, but let me talk about the iMac for a minute and why it's such a bad deal. So the iMac is still an M1 model. They haven't redesigned the iMac in nearly 3 years. And I don't know what Apple's plans are for the iMac, but if you're in the market for a desktop Mac and you don't want a portable Mac because of reasons like I decided, I wanted something that was that did not have an internal battery to deal with, and didn't have a compromised cooling system to save space and weight. I wanted something that would probably last a good long while, and that's where the Mac Mini comes into play. But if you want an... I'm sorry, I linked my phone to my computer and it's text... hold on. Just go ahead and mute that. So what's happening with the iMac is really sad because Apple, again, they have an opportunity to release a machine that, or they had an opportunity with the iMac by bringing back the color options. They could have used some nice, beautiful, bright, anodized aluminum, and in some of the original legacy colors like tangerine and bondi blue and blueberry and ruby, but instead they came out with a fleet of pastel, watered down, candy ass iMacs. They just, I'm sorry, I'm not buying a pink. I would buy a red iMac. I'm not buying a pink one. I would buy an orange iMac, but I won't buy a creamsicle colored iMac. Or whatever color it is, kumquat, beige, whatever color that orange is at the front when you're looking at the machine. I'd buy a green iMac in a heartbeat, but I'm not going to buy a mint-colored iMac. It's like, why, Apple? You're charging a premium for these, and to make matters worse, those iMacs have not been updated since they were released 3 years ago. At least 3 years ago. It's got to be 3 years ago, maybe 2. Meanwhile, they've got M2, M2 Pro, M2 Max, M2 Ultra all over the place, but not the iMac. It makes me wonder what Apple's plan is with the iMac. But like I said, if you're in the market for something that's more stationary and you are willing to pay the Apple tax, here's what you want to do. You want to get yourself a Mac Mini, but do not buy the 256 gig model. That one has half the storage bandwidth as the 512. So even if you don't need the space, you're paying a penalty for buying less onboard storage. I went with the 512, and I have ordered the correct solid state for my Sateki dock. So I will then have 1.5 terabytes of storage on my machine, should I need it. I will be using the solid state as a half of it anyway, will be used for a time machine backup. And then the rest of it, discretionary storage space, I guess. Have I made my point clear enough? I love the machine, but Apple needs to up their game with the peripherals. They really, 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 really do. Bottom line, they need to do better. This is a decent keyboard. It's not a gamer keyboard, and no one is going to defend this keyboard, but I actually am used to it, so I like it, but I wouldn't... If I were to do this all over again, I'd probably look at some of the Apple products that Logitech has created that are actually quite decent and have nice key feel to them. Logitech makes some beautiful keyboards that are great for typing. I'm not talking about the $29 ones at Staples. I'm talking about the ones that you can get in the technology stores. I know that Best Buy sells them. They have a nice mechanical feel, good key travel. I believe it's a frameless design as well, kind of reminiscent of the Snow White machine keyboards. Logitech also does make a mouse made for the Mac, which is just an ordinary Bluetooth mouse that's colored differently. That is actually quite nice. I demoed it at Best Buy, and I really liked it, but I had already bought this one, and I do like these too. So, very happy with this. Oh, and I also went and bought new Bose Companion 2 speakers. Companion 2 Series 3. These are an upgrade from what I had. My speakers, by the way, were over 10 years old. I bought them in 2008. And it was... I thought I muted this. So, I had bought the Companion 2 Series 2 and they're aged out, probably developing capacitor issues. So I put them down in the basement with my basement computer, and that's where they will live out the rest of their lives. I love the sound of the Bose speakers. They are very, very rich sounding. For computer speakers that don't have an external subwoofer and all that extra cabling, you can't do better than this. They're $150 for a set. And literally, I mean, my other set of these, I've had them since '08, and they still work. But again, they're developing some capacitor related. I'm going to have to fix them. But they do still function, and they sound amazing. So all that having been said, very pleased. I will do this again in 7 years if Apple still makes the Mac Mini. I think this is the right move. As for my MacBook Pro, it is currently on eBay. I'm expecting to get around $300 for it, which would be a nice little bonus. So that's $300 towards the price of this machine, which makes it very inexpensive overall. I just muted this. Why is it not muting? Oh my God. I guess the notifications just go right through the... Really? I don't know why that is. Anyway, I keep getting texts. I'm going to have to turn that off. I got to get out of the... I hate texting. I'm just telling you, group texts suck. Leave me out of them. Anyway. Have a great day, everyone, and do your thing.